Hi, Jack. How are you? I'm Kevin.
Good. Nice meeting you, Kevin.
Same here. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time and interest in this unusual subject. I guess John told you what you're getting yourself into here.
He did. And, I don't think it's that unusual anymore. I think it's gaining in acceptance more and it's becoming a more legitimate area of inquiry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you think about all the what is it? The Department of Defense giving up some information on the UFO sightings from the military. You know, those videos being released, slowly but surely getting out into the public realm and making it more acceptable, right? I mean, beforehand, you tell somebody you saw a UFO, they would say you're a weirdo, you're strange, but now it's
Right.
like I saw one too. You know, it's okay for them to come out and say that now.
Absolutely. And the thing too is this, the Pentagon is doing studies on it. There's congressional investigations into UFOs, which they're actually calling UAP now. They're calling it unidentified aerial phenomena,
Right.
as opposed to UFO, which is kind of, a 1950s term.
Right.
So, yeah, I think too, what's helped gain legitimacy is the amount of pilots and people in the armed forces and that have seen or interacted in some way, with UFOs. I mean, if you have a pilot with 30 years experience flying, a 747, and he says, I saw a UFO, I was being followed, I saw a craft hovering over my airplane, you have to at least consider the possibility that this person is telling the truth or what he believes to be the truth.
Well, it's like exactly the same thing in the military. You know, you have all these men you trust, you put your, the country in their hands in a sense, and they're telling you they saw something. I mean, why would you not believe them?
Exactly. And my feeling is, it's very simple. UFOs or UAPs absolutely 100% exist. And I'm totally unapologetic and unashamed of my viewpoint because any other viewpoint would actually be silly. So think for 1 second that this tiny little blue planet is the only planet in the universe or in the multiverse that has life. It's just a very arrogant, actually, point of view.
What do you think are in these UFOs? Do you think they are manned or maybe beinged, if you will? I mean, what terminology you would use? Are they bots or what's your thoughts?
I think it's a mixed bag. I think it's quite possible that some of the sightings that people have been seeing are actually unmanned, even though that's kind of a weird
Right.
way of putting it. They could be expeditionary, uh, you know, uh, vessels, ships, what have you, that are just basically interested in seeing what kind of life form we have here on Earth. And, you know, they might be sending out these kind of unmanned robotic uh, crafts to thousands of other similar planets or dissimilar planets. So, like I was saying, you know, I'm unapologetic in my views.
Well, I think we all should be in a sense because it's unidentified first of all, so we don't know what it is. So if you can identify it, then yeah. So it looks like a plane. Okay, well then it's not a UFO, I guess, right? But if you don't know what it looks like, then yeah, I mean it's like what is it? It's like if there's no explanation for it, it's got to be something that I mean because I've seen some UFOs before, and
Right.
when I look at them, I get a feeling in my body that's like that tingly feeling of like, oh, this isn't natural. This isn't what
Yeah.
I shouldn't be seeing this ball hanging high in the sky, bouncing up and down.
Right.
You know,
Defying the laws of gravity as we know them to be, because the laws of gravity may apply to our planet and to our reality, but perhaps they don't apply to another planet or another species coming from another part of our universe or from the multiverse.
yeah, well, that's another theory too. Is these UFOs can probably manipulate the dimensions and just zap, boom, here they are right in front of us. But since they are in another dimension, they're out of focus in a sense. I mean,
Absolutely. You know, I know my mother, uh, who is still alive. She's over 100 years old.
oh,
Uh, she absolutely always told me never to negate the possibility of there being UFOs. And in fact, she told me that she has seen UFOs and that she has interacted with aliens, and believes that one time when she was a newlywed, they were driving down a road in Greece, and they were really about to fly off the road into this mountainside, which would have led them to crash onto the beach like 500 feet below. And she said she saw an alien type hand, something not of this world, grab the steering wheel, put the car back on course to avoid, what surely would have been their death. And that later on that night, when she was with my dad and they were at the restaurant in a little out of the way place in Greece, sitting at an adjoining table, she said she actually, for a split second, 2 seconds, saw the alien in its entirety. And then when she wanted to go over, I guess she wanted to thank him or it or whatever it was, it disappeared.
wow.
And, my mom does not lie. That's one thing. If she told me that story, she believed it, and she's a pretty lucid, intelligent woman who still has her faculties, and she's over 100 years old.
Oh, that's amazing. What a story that is. I mean to have that happen to you. I think there's a lot of things we might be able to see in our own lives of maybe angels, or if you want to call them angels, or aliens, or
Right.
whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Some they conflate a lot of times. I think a lot of people might conflate them. Of someone stepping in, and maybe if you could acknowledge, or if you see that happening, and you can go, wow, that's like, it's. I'm sure I've had something happen for me that somebody stepped up. It could have been an alien. I don't know. And but to have what your mom went through is unique in itself, just because
It,
of the hand on a wheel, and then be able to see that person later on. That's pretty amazing, man.
and being able to feel that the hand that was on the wheel was now connected to this
Right.
whole body. And it was like, okay, she saw a part of the jigsaw puzzle. Then later on that evening at dinner, she saw the whole jigsaw puzzle, and she never saw that being ever again. But she remembered and, told me about it on different occasions. And she also, told me, I don't know, one day I was listening to a Jimi Hendrix album when I was in my early 20s, and the album started off with this radio show of somebody named Mr. Caruso talking about extra terrestrial beings. And she walked into the room, and the beginning of this Jimi Hendrix song was on, and she just looked at me and said, Jimi Hendrix knows some truths. That was it. That's what she told me.
Wow. That's fascinating. Yeah, there is a Jimi Hendrix alien story. I'm not sure if you know aware of this.
No.
He was before he became who he was traveling, and they got stuck in a car in a blizzard, and they said like I think an alien came out and saved him. He got it like they
Wow.
were going to die in the car because it was so cold or something. It's I'll have to look it up. There's a story to that somewhere down the road. So
I'm
so
not, I'm
yeah.
not surprised because when he put that at the intro to a song on Are You Experienced, I listened to it and I was thinking, there's a reason why Jimi is putting that as an intro to the song. And it's not just some flippant little humoristic thing. He's trying to communicate that the existence of extraterrestrial beings is real. And he's trying to communicate that to the younger generation who are perhaps more open than their parents, which was the case actually in the 60s and 70s.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the psychedelic era of music coming out. I mean, as far as living through that time, and listening to the music nowadays, it's still, I mean, it's still applicable, it's still relevant. And but I mean, how much of it back then was all about aliens and UFOs? I can't think of too much in my mind of so many songs that were about that topic.
Very, very few. I mean, the Byrds had an album called Fifth Dimension. And I thought that was interesting because the lyrics were really about traveling to another dimension. The lyrics were like, how was it that I could come out to here and still be traveling and never hit bottom, just relaxed and falling through. All the lyrics are about reaching another dimension.
Right.
And really, UFOs probably come from another dimension, or maybe they don't. But but if they did come from another dimension, that would totally make sense as well, because we're so confined to believe that our dimension is the only one. And that's a fallacy.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just a matter of how do we tap into those other dimensions as human beings? What's our superpower to get us into that level? Is it meditation? I mean, that seems to be a way to do it in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're not taught these things, there's a reason maybe why we're not taught these things, to not, have us open up our mind a lot more to the options that are out there, as opposed to keeping it strict to where we're at in our societal structures that we've built for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's stay here, stay paying the bills, get your job, do your thing. There's nothing else to look at, nothing to see over here.
Right.
That's kind of how
Yeah.
it operates a little bit. And it's a
Nothing
shame.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it really is. And I think that there's some inherent fear that we humans have, and it's called the fear of the unknown. Anything that we feel is unknown or alien, there I go, I use the word, or alien to us, is something that we are in trepidation of, something that we're afraid to open that door. There was a band from Long Island where I'm from. They were called Zebra. And they actually had a song called Who's Behind the Door. And in the video, that song actually broached the subject of UFOs and what was behind the door. Who's behind the door, and how many doors are there?
Mm.
We don't even, that's another question. We don't even know. It's probably infinite.
Yeah, right. I would imagine it's just the universe is so, infinite itself. I think one of the things people, as society as a whole, or humans as a whole, to be fearful of what else could be out there is also like it's risking our control, or because we might have to give up our control if we accept another species who could, fly across the universe. It's like, obviously they're more powerful than us. So we don't want that to happen, because God knows we're going to be treated the way we treat animals on this planet.
Right, that's true. And that's also, a cliche that they're necessarily more powerful than us, because if it's interdimensional, then it's not necessarily true that they would be more powerful, because we would be possibly the ones who are more powerful, traveling to other dimensions, and seeing maybe a glimpse of a society that was similar to our primitive society. If you were to take someone from 200 years ago, from the 18th or 17th century, and fly them into the year 2022, it would be like science fiction to them. Even this whole concept of, here we are, we're talking on television, on this computer that didn't even exist 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
you
We
know,
would be a dominant species somewhere if we found, right, an
right.
1800, wagon,
Yeah,
you know.
it just depends on what vantage point, you're looking at it. I mean, obviously there, in the whole multiverse, I'm sure there are species, planets, societies that are 1,000 times more evolved than we are, but I also feel there are probably some that are much less evolved than we are, probably still in the prehistoric age, with giant creatures roaming the planets, and whatever species exists, living in their equivalent to caves, and being afraid of these giant creatures, so it's all relative, but I do believe that there's so much more out there, in different dimensions and different planets and different universes, and people were still debating whether they existed or not. I'm so happy that this is changing, that the Pentagon is doing studies, that the United States Congress is doing studies on UFOs, that the Air Force is doing studies.
Well,
This thing is, it's
yep.
coming out of
Right.
the closet, so to speak.
Well, the studies have already been going on for decades. It's almost comparable to marijuana. Like they've known all
Right,
about it for so long. They suppressed the
right.
information. Now it's like, oh, all this new information about UFOs and whatever.
Yeah,
So
you're
they've
right.
known it. I mean, I've interviewed tons of people who've, lived through that whole time of the Roswell crash and in the 50s and the 60s, UFO phenomenon and all the Blue Book
Yeah,
studies and all that stuff. So it's they know it's been there. They know it's been, they've been watching, I think, for so long. I think they're just afraid to unleash it all at once. And even in this day and age, I mean, with all this information online, who's going to buy it? I mean, that's another thing we got to worry about, is like, yes, they're studying it, they're giving this information out, but it's now getting thrown in the ocean of madness of the internet.
it's true. Well, in our album, okay, the album that's actually coming out tomorrow, Souls of the Innocent, we broached that subject of other dimensions, of realities that are not apparent. Um, the title track that our bass player Ned Maloney came up with, Souls of the Innocent, which was actually about events that unfolded in Las Vegas, when there was a mass shooting, of people going to that concert. I don't know if you recall.
Oh yeah, the country
So
concert. Yeah.
yeah, and the thing is, I mean, these people that were innocently, shot, why them? You know, why anybody? How does destiny work? How does being in a certain time at a certain place, why is that, why did that become important? Why were these people, seemingly strangers, I'm sure they were, why did they all converge on this place? is our history pre-written? Is time something that is stagnant, or is time something that's fluid, or is time something that is that there are snapshots of throughout the universe? That, let's say, there is a planet that is solely relegated to the year 2018. And then there's another planet maybe of 2011, and maybe there's another planet of 1956. What, time, I don't know, I mean, the dark side of the moon, Pink Floyd, what what's going on behind the dark side of the moon, or behind the dark side of the universe? I don't know.
No one knows. It's all
No.
speculation.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, but there's the whole thought process of time snapshots. The energy field that we leave behind is always going to be there, so you can always go back and
Right.
tap into it. There's that.
And I like what Einstein said, which I thought was brilliant, like probably everything else he said, but he said something about nothing in the universe can be created or destroyed, because like you had just mentioned about energy being left behind, everything is left behind, everything is constant. And I believe that. I don't believe anything can be destroyed or created.
That's interesting. I wonder if the universe is nothing but a big storage unit, just to store all of all of us, and all of our times here on this planet. Like how many times this planet has been inhabited by certain beings, whether it's been us or dinosaurs or what was
Right.
before the dinosaurs. I mean,
Exactly. I mean, we have a place in Florida. It's a castle that was built, I think, in 1923 by one man moving 5,000-pound blocks of stone with no help.
I've seen this before.
It's in Florida, yeah. It's over someplace near Miami.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, you really, your first thought is, yeah, well, there's a story to it, it couldn't have happened. But then again, there were absolutely no way back then to move these incredibly heavy blocks of stone to build this. And then to this day, the front entrance still can open and close through magnetism and through scientific principles that we don't even know about today.
Really, I'll put that on my bucket list when I go to Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never seen this place, but it's definitely, it exists. People go to it. And the story of this little man who was like 5'1", who was an immigrant from, I think, Lithuania, who worked alone and built this thing. It's mind-boggling. How did he do it?
Right.
And
The mysteries of the universe. We're talking with Jack Starr of Burning Star. I'm really excited to talk to you about your music, by the way. And I want to hit a little bit about what we're talking about and the influence. You already mentioned Souls of the Innocent, and how much more of what we're talking about, how much of that really does influence the songwriting or maybe the musical structure of your songs. Because I have noticed the further on your albums have gotten, the longer the songs have gotten.
that's so true. It was almost like we were achieving what we wanted to achieve, and then we kind of were going with the flow, and letting ourselves be ourselves. It's kind of like what Sly and the Family Stone said, thank you for letting me be myself. Well, we did that, you know. Now my co-conspirator and co-partner in the songwriting of this album, Ned Maloney, he he is really tapping into his historical and sensitive side, and even though he's not like consciously saying to me or to the world, hey, we need to check this out, or we need to look into this, or this is a reality, it's becoming more and more apparent. Uh, he came up with a song called Ships in the Night, probably the best song on the album. It's got strings, it's got cellos. It's just a really lush production. You know, you listen to it and you realize that, hey, these guys are not just another bunch of heavy metal knuckleheads. They're, I had to say that, they're actually trying to say something with their music. It's not just about, you know, I love Satan and my girl is red hot because she wears black leather and all this other nonsense that some of the metal bands indulged in, not all. So in our music, we're trying to elevate the art, but it's not a conscious effort. It's just something that is coming out of us, you know, at our age, at the amount of time we've been doing this. It's like we're at the point now where we realize we're not going to get a double platinum album. If you're not Billy Joel in this industry, there's a very good chance you're not going to become Billy Joel. That ship has sailed, and we're okay with that. So what we want to do is we want to create something of everlasting taste and talent, and something that's worthy, that could be listened to 100 years from now. Why not, you know? So with the song Ships in the Night, Ned was, I don't know if he was doing it consciously or subconsciously, but the song invokes the spirit of discovery of these big wooden ships that sailed across the oceans hundreds of years ago, and how these men who had no modern day you know, equipment, radars and sonars and any of that stuff, how they were able to look up to the stars and be able to guide these little flimsy wooden boats to make 5,000-mile trips to the new world. So Ned, I don't know if he was doing it as a parallel to space exploration, but when I listen to the song, I feel the correlation, you know, ships in the night. And I think it's a wonderful thing how mankind has always had this incredible spirit, you know, of discovery and a spirit of fearlessness, you know? I mean, how fearless do you have to be to get into a little tiny little rocket ship and let, you know, Mission Control Center shoot you into space, you know, and stay there sometimes for like 8 months, 9 months, a year.
Well, it's really, I don't want to interrupt you real quick, but it's just interesting, the dichotomy of, we were talking earlier about how humans are fearful, and here we are, someone who's fearless. We have the two human beings, don't we?
Yes, because the majority of humans, myself included, are fearful. But there's a small minority of us that are totally fearless. And God bless them, because these people are the ones that are going to make the big discoveries. They're the ones that are going to open doors and to other universes, other dimensions. It's not going to be Jack Starr sitting in a chair talking about his latest metal record. I wish I were one of the fearless, but I'm not.
You wouldn't go up in space?
No,
No. If aliens came down and said, "Hey, you want to come out with us?" and you might not come back, but you know, you can at least go for the ride, or are you no, you would stay?
I wouldn't go up there now. Like I said, I know my limitations. I would be one of the fearful ones. I would be like, okay, you go. It's okay. I'll send me a message when you get up there.
Send me an email.
Send me an email, right?
You know, I was listening to the album, and it's really heavy, and I really dig the sound you guys are putting out, and it's just a long sustaining, just I mean, just a good headbanging music, man. That's all I can really say to you, to what you're putting out. And you have singing too, which is great. You know, I mean, I know a lot of the bands these days go to that guttural sound and everything like that, but I really like the singing, and
Yeah,
and
I
enjoy that.
agree.
I enjoy that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And thank you for saying that, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody else was telling me, are you sure you guys didn't step into a time machine? Because it sounds like it's right out of 1988 or 1987. And, at first I was a little taken back and like, is that a compliment? And then I thought about it. Yeah, let's embrace it. It is a compliment. There's a lot of great music that came out from that old school metal.
Yeah.
And I think that it was a compliment. And I think that I would say like the only, nod to the present is that our recording technology is better now. And so we made a very state-of-the-art album. It sounds really good. It's got a lot of transparency. It's got a lot of presence. And so that part of it is our nod to the present and to the future. But the songwriting and the arrangement and the vocals really, we're embracing that 80s old school sound. And I'm okay with it. It's
I
like,
am
hey,
too. I listened to it. I don't think that era really lasted too long before, bands like Pantera came out and kind of changed the dynamic of the scene. So I don't think what you were playing, in a sense, what you're kind of referring to, didn't really have a long shelf life in that 80s time period, in a sense. It's
yeah,
interesting.
that's a good point too. I mean, the kind of music we're playing wasn't even the popular music of the 1980s. The popular metal of the 80s was mainly coming from Los Angeles
Right.
and from California. It was West Coast.
Right.
It was, Motley Crue, Poison, Rat, LA Guns, all that whole, sound. Um, the sound that we were doing was more like the Queensryche, Dio,
Yeah.
Maiden kind of thing, which really didn't get played much at all on MTV. Uh, MTV really, they were into this whole thing where if the band wasn't made up of pretty boys, they were pretty much not going to play you too much, So that ruled out a lot of bands, like Dio. They didn't really play Dio that much, Ronnie James Dio. Not that he was bad looking or anything, but he wasn't John Bon Jovi. He
Right.
wasn't Stephen Piercy of Rat.
They regulated that to the Headbangers Ball on the weekends, where
Right,
everything else. If you're,
exactly.
like I said, Bon Jovi, you would get the middle of the week play.
Yeah, I mean, the only time Burning Star got played also was Headbangers Ball. Our band was managed by the owner of like the biggest club on Long Island called Sundance, and so they bought a lot of airtime in Headbangers Ball. They had commercials going on, and one of the predominant commercials, was Burning Star, and it was cool, because I could at least, if I wasn't getting airplay, on the show itself, we were like in the commercials at least,
Right.
But the thing that I'm trying to say is that our music, our metal, our take on metal was never really super popular. It was kind of the metal that didn't really get played on the radio.
It's I mean, if you don't mind me saying this, it's very European metal.
Yes,
It's
I think
it's
you're right. And
It's thematic. It's kind of operatic, if you will. It's I love long sustaining songs. I love long sustaining riffs. I mean, I listen to you. I'm like, yeah. I'm jamming throughout. I mean, yeah, you might have a little, some songs, don't have the hardness of it. You chill out a little bit, but for the most
yeah,
part, I mean, to me, that's what I want to hear.
well, and I think it's cool, and I would love, obviously some of your listeners would check it out, because I think, as time goes by, a lot of people have gotten away from metal. It's like, oh, it's always the same thing. And a lot of it is these singers with these, cookie monster vocals, I'm gonna kill your mama, and we don't do that.
Right.
We have a guy in the band that can actually sing really well,
Yeah.
and and
Well, I think the
he
production too of the sound it's stellar, man. It's clean, but it's full. It's just a really strong sound, and it just makes the sounding experience, the listening experience, so much better. There's a couple videos I want to throw out your way. Stand Your Ground and Land of the Dead have both been transformed into videos for Star Wars and Game of Thrones. Are you aware of this? Are these your videos?
we were not aware of it. Here's the thing: when you put something out into the internet world, the universe of internet, it's out there. You cannot call it back. So there are fans in all kinds of different countries. For whatever reason, they make videos. We can't tell them what to do. We can't stop them. And so I have seen some of them.
Okay.
Some of them are cool. We would actually prefer that they not do that, because it's not what we're about. But the bottom line is, you can't control it. Just like if somebody, releases a photo, you can't control somebody from photoshopping it.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you're fighting a dragon, and meanwhile the photo could have been you at a hamburger stand, or all of a sudden, the whole band is on a spaceship.
Right.
People do what they do on the internet, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
And here you are. You've been in the '80s. You were in the '80s going through the whole music scene. No internet. You wouldn't. Nobody be able to do this it's the only way they're going to hear your music is either recorded off a radio, or buy your album, or cassette or CD if you're out that. I mean,
It's
that was
so
it.
true.
Yeah, you're just limited to that back then.
And we take that for granted. We take it for granted that this always existed, that we could always send messages back and forth in the blink of an eye. But I mean, I remember when in the '80s, when we came out with the first Virgin Steel album, there was this huge network of tape traders. These were guys that would trade cassettes back and forth. And it was like a small little club of metal fanatics. And they would drop cassettes into like an envelope and send it to Yugoslavia, or send it to, California from New York, or New York to Mexico City. And there was a camaraderie there. And it was not fast. If there was a new band, you didn't find out about it right away. It took time for people to, to communicate via snail mail, what we call snail mail today.
Right. Yeah.
And so on. But in a way, it kind of made the scene a little bit richer too, because something that you have to work for sometimes has more value.
Jack Starr's Burning Star is you got the new album coming out. And Souls of the Innocent is the album. It's coming out Friday, and congratulations on the album and the sound you're putting out, man. I feel like there just needs to be a generation that to hear this music that you're putting out, and because it does reflect a time where I think wasn't really taken in a lot. I mean, like I said, like you said, is the American audience and the European audience are just two completely different worlds. You've experienced both of them, so
It's true. You know, what you're saying just totally makes sense. You know, we love both. I mean, you know, I live in America, so naturally, you know, what my contemporaries and peers and in America have to say is very important to me. But at the same time, you know, my background is from France. I'm I'm French.
All right. When did you leave France to come to America?
I was 10 years old
10 years
and
old.
I came to America and I had to learn English. I didn't really speak a word of English until I was 10 years old.
Oh. It's a lot more than what any American kid would do if you went somewhere. If the role was reversed, I don't think an American kid would want to learn that language.
Well,
I hope I would be wrong, but
well, I had I Dream of Jeannie to help me and Bewitched and Gilligan's Island, and it was a really great language learning source for me.
what about music? What was your first intro to music for you?
Well, I listened, you know, to the Rolling Stones, and kind of made me want to pick up a guitar, you know, hearing songs like Satisfaction and you know, all that stuff. And then I saw Black Sabbath. I think I was 17 or 18. It was the first American tour. And I, you know, saw some of the bands, you know, like my favorite bands at the time were like Mountain with Leslie West and 10 years after. And then I got into blues also. So it was really just a little bit of it all, you know.
That's what's great, and that's what brings us what you bring to us right now. Your whole experience, the fact that your mom was saved off the cliff of it from an alien, it's brought us to you.
You know, we're all a composite of everything, of all our experiences, you know. It's just like intelligence, you know, how do you define intelligence? Probably by the amount of experiences and books you've read and your total, you know, what you've experienced, it becomes your intelligence, you know. If you never left your room and you never experienced anything, you never read anything, you would not do well on an IQ test.
I think, and nowadays with people not leaving their houses and only being on the internet, I feel like we might be heading more towards those kind of people
Well,
in our society. You know, I mean, we got to change this, Jack. How do we change it? How do we get people to, I don't know, go outside and live a little? You know, I mean, how do we do that?
well, I think we have to break the tyranny of the internet. Um, we really do. You know, Jim Morrison from The Doors, like 50 years ago, he said something which I'm going to paraphrase. He said, art adorns our prison walls. It keeps us placated and satisfied. Uh, well, I would I would change one word. Computers adorn our prison walls.
Hmm.
They keep us placated and satisfied. We need to just turn off the computer, go outside, talk to your neighbor, breathe some fresh air, and not listen to the endless stream of lies that are being propagated. And that goes from the left to the right to all points in between. You know, think for yourself, go outside, do some research, and don't be afraid because we're all going to die anyway. Okay, no one gets out alive, so just
Enjoy it.
enjoy the ride. It's a pretty
Enjoy the
cool
ride.
ride.
That's Bill Hicks right there, comedian Bill Hicks. It's just a ride.
It's just a ride, and it's a good ride if we make it a good ride, and we're not too fearful. Uh, of course, you know, some are, like we said, talked about earlier, some are going to be more fearful than others, and you're always going to have that little percentage of people that are going to be explorers. I mean, I was reading, there were some tourists from America in their early 20s that fell into the crater of Mount Vesuvius in Italy. This was just a couple of days ago. They basically, there was a big sign, nobody allowed past this point. And it was basically telling people, okay, you're on your own. If you go past this point and you want to explore this volcano, you could fall into it and it would be bye-bye. These guys were unafraid. They wanted to get close. They wanted to look down into the mouth of this volcano. And they did. And one of them fell like 30 feet. He managed to hold on and he was saved. They pulled him out with a rope. But it's the nature that maybe in the course of 1 year and in the course of maybe 80,000 tourists, 79,000 heeded the warning of that sign. Do not go past this barrier. It is dangerous. You could fall into the mouth of this volcano. But there are some people that are just, they're going to do it.
So if they fall in, they die, they don't get a sympathy card.
No.
It will be the same if you got. It'll be the same if you went to Mexico, got drank the water and got sick. I'm like, I'm not gonna feel sorry for you. You knew the risks of going when you went there. It's like, what do you? It's like, no, that's like, what are you doing? But you're right. You press the limits. You go there. You go as far as you can go. And then I'm sure that guy who got saved is like, living the best life of his life right now because he experienced the most fearful thing he ever feared. And now he went and he lived through it. So that adrenaline's going to maybe push him to another place that he might not, live through.
It's true. And he went past the point of no return, and he lived to talk about it, right. Which is also amazing, I mean, it's like, with this album and with everything that we're doing, it's really pretty ballsy, if you really don't mind me using that word. For us, at our age, I mean, we're still in the game. We're still rocking and rolling. We're still putting out albums. And we still believe that we can do something meaningful and something that will resonate with a new generation. And we're seeing it happening all over the world. We're getting mail from like the Czech Republic. I got an email the other day from Transylvania. I had to do a double take. It was like, wait a minute, this country really exists.
Right.
There is a country called Transylvania.
Right.
They have young people or older people that listen to heavy metal.
Right.
And one of them is contacting me.
That's awesome.
I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the first person or maybe the second person that I'm sharing that with because it's so odd. But there's just something about the fact that here we are, it's 2022. I started making metal records in 81. The singer in our band, Alex Panza from Turin, Italy, he's only like 29 years old. We're all old enough to be his father. And it's all good, This guy, Alex, I don't think was born. No, he was not born when I put out my first solo album in 1984. Wow. He was not, wait, was he born? No, he wasn't born. He was born in, I think, 1989 or 1990,
So, I mean, so he obviously got into the music at a young age to listen to. I mean, so it's, and you're right. I think the older, it's just going to get passed on more. Hey man, you got to get your music on Stranger Things, right? That's where you need to get your songs on.
And we made a good album in terms of it being a representation of what happened before. And I speak of myself, Ned Maloney, the bass player, who has played with a lot of icons from the 1980s, like Steve Whitman from the band Kix, like Joe Lynn Turner from the band Rainbow. He's a direct link to the 1980s. He's a walking, talking, breathing link Ditto for the drummer of our band, Rhino, who played in a very iconic 80s band called Manowar. Ditto for myself. I played in Virgin Steel in the early 80s, and then I started Burning Star. So we're kind of like, without sounding like intentionally humoristic, but we're kind of like links, living links though, to the 1980s, and we're proud of it.
Damn straight, you
We're not,
should be. I
yeah, we're
that's
not apologetic. It's like someone called us the other day. You guys are like really old school. I hope you don't mind me saying that. And I said, mind you saying it, please go right ahead. Yeah,
like you said, it was a special time of music, man, and it didn't last very long.
no,
Unfortunately, it kind of, I totally remember the '90s. I remember the whole shift and everything, and
yeah,
it's I'm just glad to hear it. It's just because sometimes in the whole late '90s and the 2000s and the 2010s, for me it was, I started getting into more alternative music too with the radio station that I was working with. But
right.
I was kind of Pantera, Slayer, but I love Judas Priest, I love Queensryche, I love
No,
Iron Maiden, bands who sing, bands who have those as songs, that have some little. I mean, not that saying Pantera doesn't. I love Pantera, but I mean, it's just a different world, It's just you get your
well,
angst
it's
from them, and
another.
you get your I don't know, your thinking man's type of metal in a sense of,
Well, I got to quote what this 11-year-old kid said. Okay. We got interviewed by an 11-year-old just like a week ago. He has a website called Jam Man. And anyway, so towards the end of the interview, I said, "Well, what do you think of our album?" And I wasn't, fishing for compliments. I was just curious because he's so young and he's into metal.
Mhm.
And he said, Jack, he goes, man, he talks, like, man, even though he's 11, he goes, man, your album sounds like Judas Priest and Black Sabbath having a baby. And I said, hey, it's pretty right on the money. It's kind of, what you get when you hear that,
Yeah.
and of course, we're putting ourselves into it as well, because we're not really great at copying, even if we wanted to totally copy Judas Priest or copy Black Sabbath, we wouldn't be good at it. It's there's an art to being a total clone of somebody. I don't want to do it, and I'm not even good at it. So,
Well, like you said, this was the album where you said there's nothing to hold back. It's being who you are. It's being who the band is, and that's
right,
what you develop these songs. And I love the long songs. I love them. The majority of them are over 5 minutes. I totally dig that. That's for me
yeah.
personally. I like that. The album
Well, I'll tell
sounds
you,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, I'll tell you a funny story. A lot of these songs, when we were writing them, Ned, the bass player, Ned Maloney, did most of the arranging. And sometimes they would leave me these enormous gaps in the song to play a guitar solo. And I was thinking, oh my God, I've got to fill in like a minute and a half here. What am I going to do? And I would just try like different takes until finally I was able to just play something that would keep the interest level up. And hence they became long songs, because we didn't want to be, kind of like your typical metal band, you've got a verse, a chorus, a bridge, a 30-second guitar solo, you're back to the chorus and you end the song.
Right.
Um, we didn't want to do that, and Ned, who did most of the arranging, along with our producer, Kevin Burns, you know, they really wanted this album to not be a cookie cutter metal album. So getting back to what the 11-year-old Jam Man said, yes, I thought there was some validity in it about, we sound like Judas Priest and Black Sabbath, having a baby, but we're also not as commercially maybe it it's not as important as those bands that he mentioned for us to be like them, because you got to remember those bands are on major labels. There's a whole bunch of people dependent on them to sell like 500,000 records or 1,000,000
Right.
records when they put out an album. So it's almost like there's a duty for them to make them short and playable on different medias.
Right.
You know, so we have a couple that could be played. The weatherman could still do his weather report as we're fading out. Or, or whatever it is that they do. But we don't have that person, holding a whip and saying, "Hey,
Right.
you guys went over 4 minutes. What the hell are you doing here?" That guitar solo, we need to cut it down. It's a minute and 23 seconds.
Yeah.
Guitar solos aren't meant to be that long. So
You're free range.
that's the difference,
Yeah, you're free range.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap this up. And I really appreciate your time again. Jack Starr of Jack Starr's Burning Star. Do I see maybe in the future a concept album from you?
That's kind of an interesting point. Yes, that would be so great. We would have to come up with something that hasn't been done, and that could be a cool thing. Absolutely.
I just feel like
Yeah,
you can pull it off. I just feel like you can just string a song, a 45-minute song in a sense, and break it up into whatever you want to break it up into.
well, I've got the right collaborative
I think
partner
so.
in Ned Maloney. He's a wonderful bass player, arranger, singer. His daughter even sings great. So I mean, there's all this talent that could be harnessed, and we could possibly work on a concept album. But while I'm kind of giving you my ending thoughts, I just want to say that tomorrow, July 15th, the album officially comes out on Global Rock Records. The album can be, some of the songs can be previewed on YouTube. So if you go to Jack Starr's Burning Star, there will be 2 songs already from the album right now on July 14th, but which are Demons Behind Me and Souls of the Innocent. But tomorrow there will be a 3rd song also on YouTube that will make its premiere. And that song is called I Am the Sinner. So that's a big day for us tomorrow. We've got this premiere of a new video.
Nice.
And we've got the whole darn album coming out tomorrow. And people will be able to get it on all the digital platforms,
Right.
like Amazon and I don't know. I don't even know what they all are because I'm not really into them. What are they?
There's 1,000 of them. You're right.
There's like 1,000 of them. Whatever they are, we'll be on it
Right on.
because we really got great manager, Giles Lavery, who's a lot younger than we are. He's a little bit older than our singer, but he's younger than we are. And he's more attuned to what's going on, in the digital world,
Right.
as well as having love and respect for the older, music. But he knows about all these digital platforms and all that stuff. So we've kind of got both foot in both worlds.
Nice. Yeah, you have to, and you're on top of it, man. I mean, the album sounds really amazing. I wish you the best of luck with it. And when you come out to the West Coast, you're going to tour. You make sure you let me know. I'd love to see you guys play.
Absolutely, we will do that. And just thank you so much for having me on and
Yeah.
being able to talk about the album. And it's all good. And I'm glad that this was a little bit different for me.
Yeah.
Because we started off talking a lot about unexplained phenomena.
Right.
But you know what? It's all related when you really think about it.
I do, and I believe you on that. It is all related, and I appreciate your time.